Welcome to the debate. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to find a literal mountain of solid silver sitting right in your backyard.
Yeah, your first thought would probably be that you are the richest person on Earth.
Right, exactly. You would think you could buy anything, go anywhere, and, never have to work another day in your life.
But history actually tells a very different story about that kind of sudden wealth.
It really does. History shows us that finding a massive mountain of money is often the fastest way to destroy your own society. And today, we are examining two of the most famous mountains of silver ever discovered.
Right, we are looking at Potosí in South America and the Comstock Lode in North America.
And the video presentation we are analyzing today is really high quality, so we are basically just going to follow along with its timeline as we discuss. Both of these discoveries caused a massive, what economists call a supply shock.
And we really need to understand what that term means before we go any further. A supply shock is, well, it is not just a little extra money entering the economy.
No, it is a massive flood.
Exactly. Think about what makes silver valuable in the first place. It is valuable because it is rare. It is hard to find, and it takes, immense effort to dig it out of the ground.
Right. And because it is rare, people trust it to hold its value.
But what happens if suddenly millions of tons of it just flood the market? The silver loses its magic. It becomes as common as gravel.
And when the money you use to buy bread is suddenly as common as gravel,
The entire system breaks down. Yeah. That sudden, overwhelming flood is what we call a supply shock.
which brings us to our central disagreement today. Both of these mountains flooded the world with silver, but they did it in very different ways.
Very different, yeah.
So the question we are exploring is this: which event teaches us the more important lesson about why economic systems fail? Is the greatest danger a slow, long-term flood of resources that ruins an empire's industry?
Or is it a sudden, high-tech explosion of resources that breaks the rules of global money?
Right. I take the position that Potosí is the ultimate lesson. It shows how a massive long-term reliance on raw wealth, without actually building industries, will slowly destroy an empire.
And I take the opposite view. I argue that the Comstock Lode is the vital lesson. It proves that rapid, high-tech supply shocks can instantly break the world's oldest money systems.
Well, let us start with Potosí. I want to paint the picture of this for you, because the sheer size of it is almost impossible to imagine.
It is a staggering amount of silver.
It really is. So in the 1500s, the Spanish Empire discovered a mountain in the Andes of South America, and it was quite literally a mountain made of silver.
Just solid wealth.
Right. Over the centuries, more than 40,000 tons of silver were pulled from this single peak. To put that into perspective, this one mountain accounted for 50% of the world's entire silver supply at the time.
Wow. Half of the world's money.
Yes, half of the money moving around the globe was bleeding out of this single point.
It is an astronomical number, but we also have to look at the timeline there. That 40,000 tons did not just appear overnight.
No, it took a long time.
Right. It took hundreds of years of brutal, slow, manual labor to pull that metal out of the earth.
That is true, but that slow pace is exactly why it was so dangerous to Spain. It created a powerful illusion. Spain thought they were infinitely wealthy.
Because the ships just kept coming.
Exactly. They had a constant stream of massive treasure ships bringing endless silver back to Europe. And because they had all this silver, Spain they stopped doing the hard work of building a real economy.
They fell into a trap.
A huge trap. Think about what makes a country truly strong. It is the ability to make things. It is having skilled workers, factories, farms. But if you have endless silver, why bother learning how to make clothes?
Right, why build tools when you can just buy them?
Exactly. You can just buy everything from France or England, so they became incredibly rich in metal, but poor in industry. And this created a slow disaster known as the Price Revolution.
Let us explain how that works, because it is important.
Yeah, imagine a Spanish baker. He sells a loaf of bread for 1 silver coin, but suddenly there are millions of new silver coins flowing into the country.
So everyone has silver now.
Right. The baker looks around and realizes his silver coin is not very rare anymore. So he demands 2 coins for the bread, then 4, then 10.
The value of the money just plummets.
Exactly. And prices skyrocket. That is inflation. Spain's economy slowly rotted because they treated money as if it were actual wealth. The core argument here is that the biggest threat to an economy is the illusion of endless wealth.
I understand the tragedy of Spain. I really do. But I view the fundamental lesson completely differently.
How so?
Well, Spain failed because of bad choices. They chose to stop working. But if we jump forward in time to 1859, to the Comstock Lode in Nevada, we see a completely different kind of disaster.
You mean the speed of it?
Yes, if Potosí was a slow sickness, Comstock was a lightning strike. It erupted out of nowhere. In just 20 short years, miners blasted 7,000 tons of silver and 250 tons of gold out of the ground.
That is fast, yes. But is it really more significant than the centuries of global dominance that Potosí created?
I think it is far more significant because the speed completely broke the global financial system. The source material actually calls it a high-tech assault on the money supply.
A high-tech assault.
Exactly. These miners were not just digging with shovels. They used massive steam-powered engines. They used advanced chemical processes to strip the silver from the rock. This was a highly industrialized, hyper-efficient factory operating deep underground.
So they were incredibly productive. But why is extreme productivity a bad thing? Usually we think technology is good.
We do, yeah. Slow inflation, like Spain had, can be managed. But a sudden, technology-driven supply shock is impossible to survive. Comstock was so fast, it literally broke the back of the silver standard.
That is a strong claim. But let me offer a different perspective on the actual impact of these two mountains. You're focusing on how Comstock broke a system. I want to focus on what Potosí actually built.
Built? It ruined Spain.
It ruined Spain, yes, but it built global trade. Before Potosí, the world was deeply disconnected. Europe was isolated from Asia, but the silver from Potosí became the ultimate bridge.
You mean trading with China?
Right. The Ming Dynasty in China desperately needed silver because they required their citizens to pay taxes in pure silver.
Ah, yes, the single whip law.
Exactly. And because China needed silver and Spain had mountains of it, it sparked the first truly global trading network. Ships sailed from South America all the way to China, trading silver for silk and spices.
So it connected the East and the West.
Yes. Think of Potosí like a slow leaking pipe that eventually flooded the house. It took centuries to ruin Spain, but it built the modern trading world in the process. Without Potosí, that global highway does not exist.
Okay, I hear your point about the highway, but let me ask you this. What good is a beautiful global highway if the ground underneath it suddenly collapses?
I'm not sure I follow.
Well, you are praising Potosí for building the trade system. I am pointing out that Comstock completely destroyed the fundamental rules of that system. By 1873, the world's oldest money system collapsed under its own weight.
Because of Nevada, or because trusting a shiny rock is just a flawed way to run an economy?
It broke specifically because of the technology in Nevada. Let me explain. During this time, the leader of Germany was Otto von Bismarck, and he was watching this massive flood of high-tech silver explode out of the United States.
Right. Bismarck saw the steam engines.
Yes. He looked at those massive extraction numbers, and he realized the system was doomed. He realized that technology would just keep flooding the world with more silver.
So he made a move.
A massive move. He decided to exit silver entirely and enter gold. Gold was still rare. The steam engines in Nevada could not magically create more gold.
That is a major historical shift.
It is. When a massive flood of fast, high-tech silver forces the whole world to abandon a money system they used for thousands of years, that is the ultimate lesson.
I see your point. But I view that shift differently. You are saying there was simply too much industry digging up the metal. But I keep coming back to the lack of industry in Spain.
You think laziness is the bigger issue?
I do. The lesson of Spain is that they were rich in metal, but poor in industry.
I have to question if the Comstock Lode would have been so destructive if Spain had not already weakened the value of silver centuries earlier.
Wait, you're blaming Spain for a crisis that happened in 1873?
I am saying the real failure is human laziness when handed free wealth. Spain spent hundreds of years diluting the value of money, teaching the world that silver could be wildly unstable.
I completely reject that. It was not laziness that broke the system in 1873. It was the unstoppable force of technology.
But the miners in Nevada were humans using machines. They worked hard, yes, but...
Exactly. They were incredibly industrious. If Potosí was a slow sickness, Comstock was a technological earthquake. It was pure math. The market can only absorb so much metal before the price drops.
But again, you are saying that being too productive is the problem.
When it comes to the creation of money, yes. If someone invents a machine today that can perfectly print $100 bills at 1,000,000 copies a second, the $100 bill becomes worthless immediately.
Right, it loses all its value.
That is what the steam engines at Comstock were doing to silver. Our technology simply outgrew the boundaries of our money. That is a far more terrifying lesson than just saying Spain got lazy.
Well, I find it fascinating how we are looking at the exact same facts from the exact same video, but drawing different warnings.
We do agree on the facts, though. Pure money is fragile.
Yes, absolutely. We both acknowledge the core lesson from the source material. If the supply of money suddenly changes, society gets thrown into chaos.
Whether it is a slow burn or a lightning strike.
Right. So let us try to summarize this clearly, especially to make sure the core ideas are easy to understand. I will start with my side.
Go ahead.
Potosí teaches us that having half the world's money, 40,000 tons of it, is actually dangerous. It is dangerous if it causes massive inflation and stops you from building real industries.
Because they stopped making things.
Exactly. They bought everything instead of building factories or farms. So the lesson is that wealth without hard work is a trap. It will slowly burn an empire to the ground.
And on the other side, my summary is about the Comstock Lode. Comstock teaches us that technology can pull wealth out of the ground so incredibly fast, 7,000 tons in just 20 years, that it breaks the rules of money itself.
Because it becomes too common.
Right. It was a lightning strike of industry that forced the whole world to abandon silver for gold by 1873. It shows that human innovation can actually outpace economics.
So these two pillars of silver history prove that massive supply shocks change everything.
They really do. And it is something we should think about today. What happens to our money today when its supply changes drastically?
That is a great point. When central banks create massive amounts of new money digitally, are we risking a slow burn or a sudden lightning strike?
It is definitely something to think about.
It is. Well, we will not declare a winner today. We will leave it to you, the listener, to decide which mountain left the bigger mark on history. Thank you for joining us on The Debate.